Hello, everybody. How are you? Hello, hello, hello. It is Thursday evening, and I'm back to my old schedule after the masterclass series. I took some time off to recuperate and re-energize, and here I am going back into the rhythm of doing my weekly live shows for you guys. For those of you who are new in here, my name is Cordula. I'm a certified holistic nutritionist. I'm so happy to have you. I specialize in helping women with an autoimmune disease to support their gut health, to decrease inflammation, to increase sleep, and to help them get rid of their symptoms that they're experiencing due to their inflammation and their autoimmune disease. So, what I'm doing today is let me go live to see here on my Facebook group to see that I'm actually live. Hello, everybody. Who is here? Let me see who is here. I would like to just pull up my group so I can see who's here. Yeah, so I'm back to my regular routine of going live on Thursdays with topics top of mind. If there's anything ever that you would like me to discuss or that you would like to hear about, please reach out. Let me know. I'm always open to getting suggestions because these topics are for you. So I still can't see me. I'm just going to make sure that I am live. Here we go. Okay, perfect. So let's talk about a topic tonight that is a really, really interesting topic. And as I was putting together notes for this topic, I actually realized how much there is to talk about within this topic. And I think what I'm going to be doing in the future is I think I might be actually putting a little bit more information out there around this topic because it's super important and super interesting to understand. So we're going to be talking about the timing of eating that matters when we're trying to reduce inflammation. So, we all know that we have to, of course, focus on the quality of our food that we are eating. I mean, that is very much out there in the public and on social media, and we all know that we have to eat nutritious food in order for us to feel better. But what we don't really so often think about or talk about is how timing of eating can also very much influence the level of nutrient absorption in your body and thereby increasing the level of nutrients that are actually getting to your cells, your immune cells, and your muscle cells, and all of the cells in your body that need the nutrients in order to increase or produce energy, in order to repair and restore, especially with the chronic inflammation happening and all of that. So, tonight, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking about number one, the importance of timing for the digestive system per se. So, I'm going to give you a little bit of an insight around how your digestive system works, relevant to time. And then we are going to be talking about, and that is such an important and such an incredible topic. We're going to be talking about the timing of the timing of food and meals, and for your microbiome. So how your microbiome is actually reacting to different times of the day or evening that you eat. And that is super new research that's coming out, and it's just solidifying what I have been seeing in my practice for a long time, and what we talked about in nutrition school as well for a very, very long time. And it's nice to see the research coming out and actually supporting that. So we're going to be talking about the timing and how it relates to your microbiome. And then we're going to be talking about actually a little bit about the time of eating and your circadian rhythm. And then I'm going to give you some tips around, best practice of timing when it comes to eating. Okay, so let's get started because I want to keep that within 20 to 30 minutes tonight. All right. So just one more thing. If you are live, give me a hi, give me a hello, give me a wave in the comments. It's always nice to chat with somebody. And if you are watching this on the replay, just put in the comment #replay, and then I know that you watched it in the replay. And hello, whoever's on here. Let me see who's on. I want to see. Let's see. I can't see your name because I am on StreamYard, but it doesn't matter. It's just nice to have some people on here. Okay, so let's get started. All right, so I summarized the points that we're going to be talking about. So let's start with the importance on timing for your digestive function. Why is timing of your meals so important when it comes to inflammation and digestion? Well, it is important. We all know we need to eat nutritious food in order to get the nutrients into our body that we need. But it's also important. Oh, hey, Kim. It's also important to understand the timing of these meals when it comes to your digestive function. So it's always nice to pull in Western research and combine it with Eastern medicine. That's why I'll be sharing my screen in a minute, and I will actually show you the traditional Chinese clock of when the system, the organs in your bodies are most active. So in terms of digestion, we all know that digestion actually slows down in the evening. So there are certain functions in your body that are very much attached to your circadian rhythm. And not just your brain and not just your hormones, but also your digestive organs are very much connected to your circadian rhythm. So having said that, in the morning when you start your day, it is your stomach area and the production of hydrochloric acid is really, really high. So I'm just going to give you the facts right now, and then I'm going to get in a little bit more into details. And then later on in the day, when we are reaching lunchtime, the digestive function of the absorption in your intestinal system is at its peak, right? So that is like midday. And then later on, after that, we are kind of like experiencing a little bit of a slump because the food that we have been consuming in the morning and around lunchtime is now starting to settle. And the food is actually starting your digestion as at its peak. So when we're talking about, sometimes we experience that 3 p.m. slump, and that is oftentimes when it's severe, it's oftentimes because our insulin levels are responding. And if we are having some sort of inflammation in our bodies, we realize that the insulin response is very severe and very abrupt, which means that you fall into the 3 p.m. slump when you're so tired and exhausted that you need a pick-me-up, right? Whether you crave chocolate or whether it's a coffee or anything like that. And that is because your digestive system is now starting to sort all the stuff that came in, and it's at its peak. And digestive function, so breaking proteins apart and breaking nutrients apart into little building blocks that need to be absorbed, takes a lot of energy. So your body uses up a lot of energy in order to do this. And that is why you typically feel a little bit less energetic in the afternoon. And then later on in the day, so let's say around 5 and 6 o'clock is when your digestion slows down. And again, it's attached to your circadian rhythm. And it correlates with the daylight coming down. Your body, your cells respond to the fact that the light that is shining on you is starting to go down. And so It's a cue for your body that digestion is about to slow down. Not much more food is coming in because your cells are so in tune with that they know the active phase of the day is done, and now they're starting to wind down. Which means that digestion slows down. So the digestive process of pulling nutrients apart slows down, your absorption slows down, and hydrochloric acid, stomach, everything slows down. So it's interesting because it's super interesting to know that, the circadian rhythm plays such a huge role in our cells. It's the circadian rhythm. I just want to hone into that a little bit more so you understand. The circadian rhythm is not just affecting our brain and our hormones, and is preparing us for sleep. Research has found, which is so crazy, is that every cell in your body has its own circadian rhythm, which is really so connected with not just the daylight, but also with cues as to when food is incoming. So your cells actually respond to some sort of rhythm, routine that you can create in your body for them to anticipate food, and which will then start, the metabolic function and them doing their thing and absorbing the food and all of it. It's super super interesting topic, and there's so much I can talk about that, but I'll just keep it really simple. Just know that your cells, your peripheral cells in your gut lining also are very much connected to your circadian rhythm. That is why it's so important to support your circadian rhythm, not just for sleep, but also for digestion. So that is really the point that I'm making here. And another point that I was going to share with you guys too is that, interestingly enough, is that it's not just your cells in your body that are responding to the circadian rhythm. The latest research has shown, and it really supports what I have seen so much in my practice, is that actually your gut microbiome, your gut bacteria, respond to circadian rhythm. They have their own circadian rhythm. So your trillions and trillions of gut bacteria in your colon, and some in your small intestine, but most in your colon, are responding or having their own circadian rhythm. It's crazy to see that really influences our digestion so much. So I want to give you one example. There's one study that has been undertaken in mice, and it has been shown. So there were two groups of mice. One group of mice was actually they were being fed a high fat and high sugar diet only when it was dark, so when there was no light. And the other control group was being fed the same diet during daytime. And the result was that only the group of mice that were being fed at night became obese and started to show illness after 8 weeks. So their markers went through the roof in terms of inflammation, versus the group that ate the same diet during the day had no issues. So of course that's an animal study, but there's also other studies in humans that show that your microbiome actually responds to being more active during daylight, as opposed to when it becomes dark. So, and I just want to tie that in to the timing of your eating, right? So, like I said, I just gave you the different times of how it relates to your digestive function. And now it's also keep in mind that the microbiome, your gut bacteria, also responding specifically to day and night time. So to daylight and no daylight, in terms of them being active metabolizing, which means that the later you eat in the day, your body responds to the light. So it doesn't matter if it's 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock. If it starts to get dark and if your body's exposed to less daylight, your entire body, including your gut microbiome and your cells, your digestive cells in your body, are starting to slow down. So the other thing I was going to talk about is from a digestive perspective, food that you eat is actually, when you think about food that you're consuming, it's not as if you're eating and then you're swallowing it and it goes straight into your stomach. It takes time. It takes time to be broken apart into different particles. So, for example, of course, there's always some variances, but generally speaking, protein takes a long time to be digested. Protein takes like 6 to 7 hours to be digested. So keep that in mind how you are preparing your meals. So if you have a protein really later on in the day, that means that this protein is going to be staying in your in your digestive tract so much longer than fruit or vegetables, which can really impact your sleep. And so if it impacts your sleep, that automatically increases inflammation. So just keep that in mind. So having said that, it's really important to schedule or think about what type of foods you eat at what time. Knowing that your metabolism is the highest in the morning, midday really. Knowing that absorption is happening past midday at around 2, 3 p.m. And knowing that digestion slows down when the light goes down in outside and your body's reacting to the sunset, you can then create a schedule for you that really helps you to support your digestion on a regular basis. So generally speaking, of course, we have to take that with a grain of salt because everybody's body and metabolism is very, very different, right? So we can't say that certain times work for everybody because everybody has a different life, everybody has a different level of activity, and all of that. We have to take that into consideration. But just having those guidelines will really help you to support your digestion in order to decrease inflammation. And the biggest takeaway of this is that inflammation really is linked to poor sleep, right? So because all of these things will affect your sleep. If you have meals that are sitting in your digestive tract for too long, it's going to make you full. It's going to sit in your digestive tract for a very long time. It's going to start to ferment. It's going to start to increase those, endotoxins that are starting to float around in your blood system, and all of it, which will, affect your sleep. If you don't sleep, your body doesn't get a full cycle of detoxification. Detoxification only happens, or not only, but for the most part, very heavily happens at night. Okay, so there's the big link between inflammation and sleep. So knowing that, it's really good to understand how we can schedule our days like that. So I have a few tips for you that you can really, think about and maybe implement for yourself in order to work and see if that works for you and helps your digestion in order to decrease inflammation. But before I do that, let me share with you, let me see if I can share my screen with you, because I was going to show you, here we go. I was going to show the Chinese body clock. So there you go. So we just talked a little bit about the science behind it all, and how digestion works. But look at the Chinese body clock, right? It's interesting how Western and Eastern tradition are not really that separate when we look at it. So when we look, I'm gonna make that a little larger. So we talked about that at midday, or early on in the day, that your digestion is at its peak. So when we talk, and I'm talking about the stomach area. So in Chinese, traditional Chinese medicine, they say the stomach is most active between the hours of 7 o'clock and 9 o'clock, right? So which correlates with us because our cortisol levels are high. We have our metabolism is at its highest because our cortisol is high. We are able to digest our food very, very quickly because our digestive fire, so to speak, is very, very strong. Then later on in the day, as I said, between 1 and 3, you see on the clock here, in Chinese medicine, it tells you that the small intestine is that's the hour of the small intestine, which means absorption, right? And that correlates with Western medicine because, as we know, food doesn't go directly into your intestine. It's being, it takes time for your stomach to digest and then release little bits and pieces into your small intestine to be absorbed, and which takes time, which means that at that time between 1 and 3 o'clock, absorption is at its highest. And that's when you start to feel that little bit of a dip at 3 o'clock, when you feel that your energy is going down because digestion is taking up so much of its energy. And you can then also continue to see on this clock here, when we go into past the night, we go into the large intestine, which is most active between 5 and 7 o'clock. This is where all the cleanup overnight has happened, and your body is now ready to release and let go of all of the waste and toxins that have been accumulated overnight during the detox phase. So I just wanted to show you that a little bit because it is really, really interesting to see how it kind of like correlates with Western and Eastern, with Western medicine. So what can you do, or what would I generally suggest in order to support digestion to reduce inflammation? Number one is, I always say, eat as soon as try to eat as soon, or let's say after you wake up and you feel as if you need to nourish yourself, then eat as quickly as you can after you wake up, because the first meal of the day can really help to stabilize your insulin response. The first meal of the day is something that goes that really breaks the fast. The fast that you had overnight. It's like we said, digestion is its peak. Stomach HCl, hydrochloric acid, stomach acid is high. So if you consume something, make it super nutritious, and know that it goes directly into your bloodstream, that your body is very absorbent. It can really it's really able to digest your food very, very quickly in the morning. So don't wait too long if you after you wake up in the morning. But of course, again, everybody's different, and also if there is different digestive issues such as SIBO or IBS or whatever's going on, you have to look at it from a personalized perspective. So just take that with a grain of salt, because that is just really a general direction here. Then also knowing that food needs longer to be broken down into its particles and components over time, and that absorption largely happens in the small intestine, early afternoon, I would always suggest to have larger meals really early and smaller meals later. So I don't know about you, but the way I grew up in Europe. So I grew up in Germany, and we had our main meal of the day. Um, so lunch was our main meal of the day. We had it at around 1 o'clock ish, anywhere between 1 and 2 o'clock. We had our big meal, which would be considered dinner here. And then later on in the evening at around 6 o'clock, we really only had a smallish meal. So that was our tradition of eating. And it makes sense because of what I just said around how our digestive system works. And it can really help to relieve fullness and bloating, and very much, the feeling of sluggishness later on, and all of these digestive symptoms that can happen if you eat your meals too late in the day, the larger meals too late in the day. um, and then another thing is that I always suggest is, in order to reduce inflammation, try to make sure that your digestive tract is really um, that it's empty, so that your digestion has done its job by the end of the day, knowing that your digestion slows down. So stop eating anywhere between 2 and 3 hours before you go to bed, which really alleviates, any sort of digestive action at night. And then if you have something at night, try not to have something that is too high in sugar, because it can really spike your insulin levels. But staying away from food to prepare your digestive, to empty your digestive system, so that overnight everything can be focused on the cleanup and the detox rather than the digestion, is super helpful in decreasing inflammation generally. So those are my tips that I was going to share with you guys tonight. Let me see if there's any questions. If you guys have any questions, please let me know in the comments. I'm just trying to pull up my group one more time to see if there's anything going on that I missed and I can answer. Let me see. Here we go. Yeah. So it is, it's just something to consider. It's something that we have to keep in mind when we are choosing how to nourish our bodies. So I hope that was super helpful for you guys. I hope it kind of opened up a different perspective around what else you can do besides just picking the right foods for you. And let me know if, in case you are implementing any of those strategies, how they work for you. All right. Have a wonderful evening, everybody, and I will see you again very soon.